So good morning and welcome back to LCN, and for those of you that are new, welcome. So it's great to see faces, some familiar and some new, so great. My name is Mark Raffler. I'm the ELA and Social Studies consultant here at Kent ISD, and I have the opportunity this year to be presenting with the early literacy coaches who are working with the elementary group over in the Grand. And then we'll also have, and so those three early literacy coaches, and we've actually hired a fourth, but the three that are back from last year, Christina Gilbert, Sarah Shoemaker, Katie Momber, and we'll have Diane, I believe it's Teich. So she'll be our fourth literacy coach this year. So she was in Lowell, had been in Greenville for a year, and so she's joining us as our fourth literacy coach. Lisa, who was great, decided to go back to the classroom. So she's doing awesome there. So it's fantastic. We also have Kirsten Rice, who's doing the Kilpatrick study overall. So what we decided to do this year is because of the way that we understand traffic and other things, we decided to do more of a soft start to the morning and kind of give you guys a chance to network and pull this in. And so as you'll see in the schedule, we're going to do this small opening each day. And that will just kind of set us up to get settled and get things together. I hope everyone's having success with getting connected to the Wi-Fi. If not, the directions are posted here. There's one on the back, and then the bigger posters. You can feel free to take that down if you're having trouble. But basically, just pull up public. And when it asks you for a username and password, it's nothing you've ever had before unless you've been here. So a lot of times we naturally think, oh, it's the username and password I use on my computer. That's not the case. You have to go down and create an account, which it will text you that information. Go from that text and enter the information. If you need help, we have a couple discussion points in the next 25 minutes where I can come around and support you in that. You will need your technology in the long run, but right this moment, it's not such a big deal. Okay, so one of the things, a couple other clerical pieces, any of the PowerPoints, well, the opening PowerPoint specifically, I guess, and some of the other more generic pieces are going to be found at this URL. So with our Google Classroom movement, there's less and less that are going to be gathered here and more in the classrooms themselves, but you'll see that as it unfolds. But this is how you can get to at least the opening and closing PowerPoints. And we're really working at doing the hashtag thing and trying to build that and build a space in Twitter. So that's hashtag Literacy Coaches Network. So that's to use today on goodies that you hear and pull, and it's also for in-between times. So use that as a way to add to your, if you're a Twitter person, to your Twitter sphere, if you will, pulling it forward. So our purpose for this morning is, again, to collectively learn and advance our understanding of and capacity for the teaching and learning of reading and writing. And that's what Literacy Coaching Network is really all about, that reading and writing piece, and then obviously doing that together. So with that in mind as our purpose, our outcomes, and this is just for this time this morning, is to be able to communicate that purpose. So making sure we understand why we're here, to continue to build that understanding. Gain knowledge and skill related and impacting instruction for all learners. You're going to see in a moment, we're carrying this theme of getting all learners to that line, right? Motivated somewhat by third grade reading law, but we know the kids that we're getting aren't there, and we want to get to all, so that all does mean all. And then how are we communicating these items back to our district, wherever you fit in that system, right? So here at the network, we have anything from teachers to parapros to coaches to administrators of some sort, whether you're a principal, curriculum director, whatever role you're serving in. So we've got all pieces. So we all have different audiences, purposes, intents that we're coming here with. So we want to support you in putting together key pieces of learning that you have so you can take that information back versus it just being a part of what you hear and hard to figure out how to go back. So we want to support that work as well. So our three outcomes for especially this morning time. So we're going to delve into in what ways will we collectively grow all learners. That's our theme of the year. We'll look at some of the LCN structures, which is really just the schedule and kind of set up and maybe clarify what the days will look like. I'll just briefly mention that Google Classroom. The implementation guide this year, if you were here last year, is shifting to this terminology of problem of practice. I think you'll find that to be a nice shift, and we'll talk briefly to that. And then we'll give you time to dive into that communication, and then we'll talk about reflection and action that you might actually take from the work. As always, we'll be building from the norms, so if you take a moment to look through the norms of collaboration. And as you may or may not be aware, the norms, right, are to build our efficacy. So how are we interacting as a group in the most productive way? And so if you take a moment, which of these norms do you see as holding in value as you continue on throughout your day today as a learner here and a support person for the Literacy Coaching Network? Because we all serve a role, but it's nice to have an intentional way to do that. So go ahead and turn to an elbow partner, take about a minute each, and just share which of these norms are you going to really hold of yourself today as we go through our work together throughout the day. What questions might you have? All right, go ahead. Take a quick minute each. All right, so one thing that you'll see is different facilitators here at LCN have different ways of drawing attention back, but it's pretty ingrained in the membership or the participants, those different coming back together pieces. But if you hear me say something along the lines of bring a conversation to a stopping point, that doesn't mean stop it abruptly. It just means finish the sentence or two, right? The joke is the sentence or two, not the paragraph that you're on. And then when we come to a close. So I'm trying to respect, obviously, that you're in the middle of a conversation and go ahead and find a way to bring that to a good end and then come together. So that loose coming back together point is done intentionally that way. So thank you for delving into that. And so just kind of getting those norms back out there. Hopefully you've had a chance to establish those with the groups that you're supporting, whether it be in the classroom or otherwise. So one of the pieces of having this first half hour, which we'll get into more in the schedule, as to why that structured itself out, is to give you a chance to have that networking time. So one of the things we wanted to put in there are some of these different networking pieces. So our hope for the year. So what we'd like to do for this protocol is you're going to take 1 minute to just consider a hope that you have for LCN over the year. So this is just one that's silently individually. And at the end of that 1 minute, what we're going to do is have you find someone in the room, and we're going to have you go and share that hope. And we're going to have you share the hope at about a minute intervals, right? So it'll probably take a minute to find someone and then another minute. And we're going to have you then shift to a new person. We're going to repeat that 3 times. So first, individually, what's a hope you have for LCN? Then I'll step back in and we'll have you share that hope with one person. Then I'll step back in and we'll share with another person and then another person and repeat that 3 times, to be clear. So let's take 1 minute and just reflect on a hope that you have for LCN this year, and then I'll step back in and prompt where we might start meeting up and doing the sharing. Questions you might have? All right, go ahead. So let's take a minute and go ahead and finish the sentence that you're on. All right, so now we're going to have you find a partner you don't normally speak to. We'll take 1 minute, and each of you, maybe 2 minutes, each of you take a moment to share your hope. And then I'll butt in and have you find a second partner. We'll do that 3 times. Go ahead. All right. Well, thank you so much for engaging in that activity. I can tell that was definitely a good switch for us. I was, however, just looking at the schedule, and I was thinking I had 8:30 in my head, so I already screwed that up a little bit. So I'm going to go through these, but I think that was worth it to give you that time to kind of get comfortable with our group and kind of set the stage for your day. So as you know, or as you will become aware, we work through a triple track agenda. So you never know, or we will try to articulate when we are doing each of these 3. But overall, we want to move your continued learning. But at points, we'll be modeling. So there we were modeling a protocol, right? So there was a model of a protocol. Then we gave you the opportunity to experience it as a learner. And then that also then incorporates as a strategy that you would carry forward. So at any point, we'll try to articulate what role we're in, but we'll treat you as students, we'll treat you as peers, and we'll treat you as you teaching us something. So we're trying to work that collaboratively, and that's called the triple track agenda, and we just want to make you aware of that in case we step in and out of those roles. But we're going to give you strategies and other pieces, but then step in and give you kind of like that, okay, teacher aside, here's how I would do this, and here's how you might look in your classroom, etc. So be aware of those pieces. Our structure, as you can see and have probably seen overall, we're down to 4 meetings this year. I'm hoping by ending in February it'll leave you just wanting more. And so I think that'll be a good timing of it. And we were thinking that through and with the demands of being out of the classroom and other pieces. As you know, our theme, well, I'll get to that in a moment, but our morning session topics are based around presenters that are coming to Kent ISD this year. David Kilpatrick already came, so we're supporting that. Jill Jackson comes actually just after that February 7th, so we're building to that. And then Penny and Kelly will come in the summer. And they're doing that multi-day piece where we'll get a chance to take what we learned from the book or go and apply in our classroom. You'd actually be able to go in and ask questions of them around, hey, I worked alongside you, kind of sorted through the book and some other scaffolding. Here's what I did, and here's what worked, and here's what didn't work. What do you think? And you'll see from the videos and things, it's give you kind of a unique experience where you can sit down and have that true, authentic, side-by-side conversation. Something that I think is really what they're resonating to in that book. So here are those pieces. Don't forget the hashtag at the bottom. Our schedule for the day is on your sheet. So you've got the schedule there. The rooms are across the top. The sessions are across the side, the row, the column. And so we're going to find. We will make a switch, though. It didn't make sense when most of us are likely. So if you're doing Penny Kittle and Kelly Gallagher, you're going to actually stay here in Coldwater. So if you were signed up for Penny Kittle and Kelly Gallagher, you're going to stay here. And I'll shift that next time. My fault on that. But if you needed Kilpatrick, he's directly, Kirsten's doing that directly across the hall that way. And over in the Grand, they're going to do the Jill Jackson coaching if that's what you signed up for. Okay? So those different pieces. The what's hot or not in literacy, when you go to that piece, we're each going to use a protocol. That protocol is in your packet. It's the second to the last page, and it's called the Conversation Cafe Protocol. So one of us facilitators will be in there supporting that, but we're going to actually give an article, and then you're going to process that article, and we'll maintain that throughout the year. So you're going to get an article. If you're thinking, man, this article's cool, I wish I could be in the other ones as well, we'll have extras of the article for you to grab, but you won't quite have that same rich discussion and dialogue around that. Nope, doesn't matter. You pick. Then in the afternoon session, I'm sorry we pared some of those down, but in paring them down, what we're going to do is infuse them into the day. So if you were moved out of the technology, I'll find a way that will fit into the Penny Kittle and Kelly Gallagher piece, and the technology will also fit into balanced literacy at some point. Same with the library piece, and then same with the formative assessment. We're going to try to integrate those pieces since we only had a handful of people that had formally signed up for them, so we thought integration would be a good idea. And then the last piece we're doing that's at the end is that instead of trying to fit in those pieces at the end of this session or the 2 hours, we're going to try to stick more to the learning for the full 2 hours. And then in the end, we're going to delve into the survey so we can get survey data and then take you to that Google Classroom and get into that problem practice overall, which I was supposed to get more to. But we're going to stick with Google Classroom and do that. And I'm sorry I'm going quickly, but as you can tell, people are coming in and I'm behind. The problem of practice. So we're going to follow this idea in our problem of practice. Last year with the implementation guides, it felt a little forced to try to do it for this session and that session, so we're trying to broaden it. So instead of implementing a specific thing, you're looking at a problem and a practice within it. In order to do that, we're looking at you assimilating the learning of the day and putting that together into what you see as next steps for you. So we're doing it at the end when we'll do the survey and all that other information, but then engage in some dialogue and conversation to prompt you and get you pumped up for what are you going to move forward and take from the work of the day into your buildings and classrooms, etc. overall. Here's what that looks like. It looks very similar to what the implementation guide was, but you can see there's a lot of differences, and it doesn't have this day, that day, the other day, because folks were feeling a little bit like, well, what if I wasn't here for that day? And we're like, well, that's okay, but now that we don't have that problem. And then, as always, think about how will you communicate that information out. And so to support you in that, we're supporting you here at the ISD, and we want you, your district team or your LCN team, to be able to go and share, whether it be at the school level, grade level, whatever that might be overall. So, as I always screw up, but you had good dialogue. Here comes the reflection and action. We did also incorporate on the very last page of your blue packet a reflection grid. So there's 4 unique sections of the day, so you could reflect within each of those boxes in that grid as you move forward. So please consider some tidbits or pieces that you might have gleaned even just from this morning overall. But remember that hashtag and remember the room change. So if you're doing the Penny Kittle and Kelly Gallagher book study, we're going to stay in here. And if you're doing Jill Jackson, you'll be over in Grand. And then David Kilpatrick's over there. So sorry for the quick end to that, but thanks for being here. Glad to have you to kick off the network. And if you have questions around where you're going and what you're doing, I'll go in and tell the leaders in those rooms that I held you over a little long. So, all right, thank you.